دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافعان خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سرداران بود و توی دروازه بود گل به نام آزمونده برای ایران
بزنه کریم انصاری گل توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد
علی دایی سام توپ توی دروازه گل
اشتباه حرکت از کوچان نژاد فرصت برای کوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Welcome back to another episode of Gol Bezan. I'm very, very happy to be back with Erfan and Benjamin. How are you both doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Happy to be back after a few months, I think it's been.
Yeah, I'm fine. As Erfan said, happy to be back. The three of us again to another episode. So it's going to be fun.
Slightly bittersweet feeling for me. I'm happy to be back hosting the channel after I think a couple months without hosting. Samson did a great job hosting and Aria, etc. But the state of the football right now is just so painful and just angering to watch. It is painful. We'll talk about that in some more detail. But yeah, I think maybe a bit of disclosure for the listeners and the viewers. I don't think this is going to be a pleasant one. I think it might be a bit of an angry episode, but we'll try to do it with as much sort of strategy, insight, and you know, professionalism as possible. So I want to talk about the CAFA Nations Cup first, specifically talking about the Tajikistan game first and then the Uzbekistan game after. A lot of people came on our spaces after these two games. I think the two spaces went on for about an hour minimum each, which is great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining that. But it just made it, you know, those two games are very much sort of on top of people's minds right now. Just before we go into it, just to maybe set the scene a bit more, the Tajikistan, obviously, we drew 2-2. It allowed us to go through to the final. The CAFA Nations Cup was always meant to be a bit of a warm-up tournament. Obviously, we were the holders before. But looking at the three games before we came into the CAFA Nations Cup, 3-0 win against a 10-man North Korea at home, a 1-0 loss to Qatar, and a 2-2 draw against Uzbekistan at home. That was the last three games. So coming into the tournament, I guess general question before we do individual game insights. Coming into this tournament, what were you guys thinking? Just generally. I'll start with you, Erfan.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's a waste that less than a year from the World Cup, we're wasting one of our windows on a tournament like CAFA. But if we have to, we have to. It's fine. Yeah, I didn't think we'd struggle against any of the teams except maybe Uzbekistan. I know even though we had managerial issues and I know we were missing a lot of the players, but before the tournament started, I would have thought the worst case scenario would be we'd win every game and then maybe lose the final. But yeah, it wasn't as simple as that.
Bezan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think a little bit like Erfan, of course. The tournament itself is not that a high profile tournament, but we obviously play that tournament. And for me, like for now as a coach myself, I think every game from the starting point when we qualify to the World Cup is to preparing for the World Cup. You know, it's about setting standards. It's about setting structure. It's about setting some type of a pathway forward for the national team, because you don't have so many windows of getting the group together. So for me, it's you know, we're gonna talk about a little bit about that when we talk about the games, but it's about setting some type of structure and standards to prepare ourselves for the World Cup. Even if we play Tajikistan or even if we play against India or Uzbekistan, so it's preparation. Every game, every session they do now is preparation for the World Cup.
Yeah, rightly said. World Cup is less than a year away now. these games and minutes are vital. I should say as well for people, it's a fairly obvious point, but these games are set up by the federation. They're not set up by, Ghalenoei and the team. So it's not entirely, I guess, Ghalenoei's fault. I would assume they have some sort of a say in terms of, should they play, should they not play, but ultimately the decision comes down to the federation. That's not to take blame entirely away from Ghalenoei with these games, but let's talk about the Tajikistan game though, because I wanna go through these points. So yeah, Benjamin, I'll come to you because you've been doing a lot of analysis with this one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna share my screen for the viewers that can't see the episode, but we will obviously talk about it as well. So I hope everything is in place now.
Yeah, all
You can
good.
see it. Yeah, good. Yeah, so the Tajikistan game for me is a quite good example of how Iran tries to play at the moment, and obviously the Uzbekistan game got ruined by the red card quite early, so it's not fair to do a full analysis on what we try to do on the pitch. Yeah, so 2-2 draw. We set up in a 4-1-3-2 according to the Y Scout, but I would say it's more like 4-2-3-1 formation when we see it. The stats, I know many people is liking to talk about the stats. For me, statistics is not everything. Statistics is shows you some kind of pathway in what you're doing, but you need to look at what happens on the pitch. We can talk about expected goals, we can talk about expected goals against and for, but in the end, it's about what we're doing on the pitch. So this is the stats from the whole tournament for Iran. So obviously the Tajikistan game, which we will highlight a little bit more in this analysis, quite even game in my opinion when you see the game from video, but statistically a little bit advantage for Iran. So there's so many variables in this. You can look at it from every angle, but I want to look at it from the angle of what's really happening on the pitch, what we see on the pitch, what the viewers see. Not just counting passes and shots on goal or something like that. So first of all, the last time we did episode, we talked a little bit about Iran's build-up structure. So one thing we can see in what they're trying to do on both sides, they're trying to do build-up rotation. So they want to have one center midfield dropping down in the space of a fullback, and they want to push up the fullback. So on this in this picture is the center midfield dropping down in the space for the left back, trying to push in up, and it's all about creating the space, to drag players outside to create the space. And this is good because when you play tougher games, you need to create space. It's so tough to find space on the pitch, right? It's you need to have time on the ball. But what I see quite much, we can see it from here as well, left back and left winger rotates as well. Left back pushes up, left winger comes down. So we try to create some types of spacing. But what we can see is that Iran is really trying to find the diagonal balls in their attack. In the breakthrough phase, they work with the diagonal balls to get the blindsided runs. You can see the fullback in Tajikistan here. He has the player outside him. This is a type of balls Iran tries to, if you like to try to see some kind of pattern in how they play. So this is the type of play they want to do. And that's not bad. That's not bad because it gives you the space from the previous picture to come in with players in the box. And this is one of the situations we have a header just outside the goal post. The same thing here. We try to find the diagonal entrance in the final third on the left winger in this case. That's okay. So I don't blame them there. But the problem, what I see, of course, is the picture again. They get the situation to get in the box. But the problem I see, we can't handle pressure in the build-up. The times Tajikistan try to press us, we are not there. So this is one example of how Tajikistan press us. They go up with 5 guys. We see they start to do the rotations. The pressure is coming on the player, but from here, you see there's empty spaces. We don't solve this situation, so we have nobody in the wide areas helping out to play out from the back, nobody in the central areas, and I think this is one part which I think, from my perspective, is this is the type of things you need to practice on in these games. It's before the World Cup. If we can't play under pressure against Tajikistan, how will it go in a World Cup? Because what happens is long balls, 50-50 duels, long team. It's going to be really tough to create a pulse from this game. So this was a little bit my reflections on the attacking side of it.
Yeah, just sorry, Benjamin, go back to the previous one, 14.
Yeah.
What's insane is that you don't need to be like a football coach like yourself to know that you look at the screen right now. If you've got the ball, where do you go? Like, how do you go forward? There's no lines. You've just got the defensive line. You've got the goalkeeper behind you. We'll talk about Niozmand actually in a bit more detail in a bit, because that's a shaky position in itself. But you don't have any midfielders, any wingers supporting you in this position. You're right. The only real thing you can do, and by the way, these are Tajikistan players. With due respect, they're not the likes of the ones that we're going to face in the World Cup that have a lot more pace, have a lot more strategy, have a lot more intensity. Add on top of that the pressure of the World Cup itself, where people mentally make more mistakes, have less time to think, etc. This is really dangerous. I saw this so many times, not just against Tajikistan, but in the last year and a half of watching Iran play, and it's become so much worse as well with every game.
Yeah, we spoke about this the last episode we did as well against. I think we covered the UAE game that time. It was the same problems, and this is like for me as a coach. You want to see progression. It's about the structure. It's about the principles you play with. So now at least they try to do something to open up the space. From this picture. They try to do some kind of rotations to give them a little bit more time on the ball, but in the end, a little bit of pressure, and we put the long ball in, because we play back to the area where the Tajikistan players is. So it's really hard to progress from this. It's really hard to get the progression on the pitch from these types of situations to create control over the game. Here it would be. Oh, sorry. Here it would be really easy. You can lay it off on the wide position and get one guy dropping in the center, and then maybe you can switch the side. You can do a switch on them, and then they need to run.
And like, if you look at, I know we're nowhere near this level, but if you look at Manchester City, they actually invite pressure because they know it creates space in behind. They know they can spread the play. They can go to the wingers, or they can play inside with the central midfielders. And if they're pressing you high up, that means there's space in behind. Whereas with this, they're not making use of that whatsoever, and they can't break the lines because there's no player outlets for them.
Yeah. Now that's the thing, and of course for the viewers as well, it's really easy for people like us or me to just put a picture and say, look at the spaces and stuff like that, because the game is fluid. Of course, it's a fluid game. It goes fast, decision making. But this is not only about that. This is about the structure on the pitch. How do we solve problems? And the problem solving here for the players is really hard to make, because either he needs to dribble by himself or he needs support, and the support is not there. So he tried to find a free guy, and then they just put it in, and we see the result here. I don't think Tajikistan, with all due respect, should put us in this type of situations. I think we should be better than that, because we are qualified to the World Cup. We should have a system in place that even if we have new players, we switch players from time to time in different positions. We should know what to do on the pitch, and that's the main thing. So obviously, I think we lack control in offensive game. We see a pattern with the diagonal balls. Many teams does it. It works quite well for us, but we need more. How do you say it? Different strategies, so we not end up in games like this. So a 1-0 up, you need to control the game better. Just not put the longer balls in. So that was from the offensive perspective. I don't know what you say, Erfan. What you have?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, I agree with your points, sir, definitely. And this is not even the same Tajikistan that we saw at the Asian Cup that was performing very well under Peter Stöger. This is a much weaker Tajikistan side since then. And yeah, I mean, like you said, we're unable to control the game. And yeah, just God save us during the World Cup if this continues, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, you know, everybody's talking about the defense. We let 2 goals in against Tajikistan, and I have looked a little bit about the defensive organization as well. And here is one thing to have in mind. You know, with talking about the stats and stuff like that. You know, expected goals. They said like the expected goals against us was 0.5 for Tajikistan, but that's just a number. We need to see what's happening on the pitch. So first of all, in this game we had sequences where we try to press them, high block defending as we call it, the high pressing. The problem is we lack intensity. We are always one step behind. So we go high with the players, but we don't control them. You see the right fullback here in Tajikistan. If this would be Liverpool pressing, they have a one guy on him. So we are like one step behind all the time. You see, the player can control the ball. Then I'm gonna find the right picture. Yeah, control the ball, play it out. They have time all the time, you know. And if you play against good teams, try to press them. Let's say this is the World Cup. We play, I don't know, England, as we played last time. The player plays it in the center here, and then it's game over. You know, this type of situations on a higher level against higher teams, if you want to press in high blocks, you need to cover the spaces and the players. First of all, we don't stop the players. We give them time. Next sequence, the same thing. In this case, we have a situation where we follow the man. That's good, but here he's on the way to the other side. He's going down, and the midfield is going up. For me, this is lack of communication, and that's for me a red thread in Iran's defense at the moment. So we create spaces for them even when we press. They put it in, they get situations. You see, this is from our high pressing. If we start from the goalkeeper, we try to press them. We are one step behind. Nobody's controlling the center player. They get it into the central spaces, and they're like one pass from breaking through from our pressing game. And of course, we talk about the goals that were. It's about, for me, I don't think they know how to defend at the moment, to be honest. I think the defending structure is a little bit just go. So here we have the goal, the 2-2 goal, the structure before that. Of course, it was a set piece, it was a free kick before. But from here, this is the guy putting the ball in. We have 2 players here. For me, it's real simple. Left back says to, I think it's Rodus, right? Pressing there. Say, go, keep on going, I got your back. You know, that's basic football defending. You talk with your players. Nobody pressures the guy who puts the cross in. And even Tajikistan players who are not the best level players, to be honest, if they get time on the ball, they can put in some quite decent crosses. And our defensive organization in defending, Tajikistan gets 4 players in. We talk about the golden zone in football where the majority of the goals are scored. If we look at the situation here, it's a 3 versus 2 in the golden zone, or 4 versus 3 if you count the center back. Usually you are in numerical advantage when you defend in the box, but in this case we are in numerical disadvantage, defending one of the most dangerous zones on the whole pitch, the zone where the goals are scored. So for me, that this becomes a goal is quite easy. It starts from here, lack of communication, you get time on the ball. We don't have the organization defending in our own box, and they score a goal from a header. And the same thing, next picture. 3 Tajikistan guys, 6 Iranian players around the ball. We don't talk. I don't think, they just go. I don't think they talk to each other. I don't think they structure the defense. This is low block defending. We are on our own half defending, and we don't count in the situation. 6 versus 3. If you see the next situation, 5 versus 2, he gets the cross in, but we are quite lucky that the quality is poor. 1 versus 1, the only guy defending the box in a cross, a right back. For me, it's about structure and communication and probably the principles in how you defend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys outside of the edge of the box against 2 players. Something is wrong then.
It's so funny, to be honest, because even at the Asian Cup, Tajikistan relied a lot on set pieces and especially crosses, and even after that. So it's not like something new. It's something that any technical staff of a national team, especially at a high level like Iran, should be able to figure out. But yeah.
No, but literally look at this. Look at the photo. You've got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players around 2 Tajikistan players. Like you don't need to
It's
be
like a middle school game.
You don't need to
honest.
be like a professional coach to see. Okay, they've got 2 players. How many players do we need around them? Like what, 3 maybe? That's really it. You need one guy on the ball, one guy maybe covering him, and one guy on the runner. That's it. And then the rest just like block the cross or watch the other runners on the other side of the pitch. It's basic stuff that they're falling down on. And the thing that's even more annoying is that everyone's been crying out for young players. And usually with young players, you can let them off for stuff like this because you're like, okay, they're developing. These aren't young players in this circumstance. I know Hasbavi was playing and there was a couple young players, but on the whole, these aren't young players, and that's another problem that we will speak about is the lack of young players in this tournament. But that's the thing that's really worrying for me, is that these are meant to be the experienced guys.
Yeah, and this is like I think we can't forget this is professional football players. We don't take them from the street and say let's go and play and have some fun. This is professional football players. And professional football players, they need guidance. Even if they're professional, they need to know everything. How do we defend? How do we attack? Which spaces are important? Which spaces do we prioritize in defending? And how many players? Some teams want to defend +1, like you said, Sina. It means that okay, there are 2 guys there, so +1, so we're 3, right? Then the other 2 guys, okay, which is the most dangerous zones on the pitch? We need to cover them. But now it's like everybody chasing the ball. The same thing with the high pressing. It's like spaces everywhere. And for me, even if we can like give critique to the tournament or stuff like that, these things need to be in place. It should be crystal clear when you go out on the pitch. How do we defend? How do we attack? And of course, mistakes happen in football. Sometimes it goes fast or something like that. But this is quite basic stuff. This is, as you said, this is quite basic defending principles. You don't chase 2 players with 5 guys.
Yeah, agreed. Especially when those 2 players are meant to be the players that, again, with all due respect, in terms of quality, they're below where we are. If it was, Ronaldo and Messi, okay, fine, get 5 guys around them, whatever. But like these aren't. It's not those players. That's the thing. It's so frustrating. This is a really good demonstration. It shows. But the thing is, this is just one game. I have seen this on countless games that we've played over the last like year.
Yeah, and I think it's about us like a structural problem, and for me, like as a diehard football fan for the Team Melli, and obviously having been coaching as my profession, you know, for me this is preparation. This is about how you prepare the players for the game. How do you do the guidelines for each game crystal clear? And for me, when seeing, as you said, Sina, when seeing this type of stuff happening over and over and over again, I don't know if it's crystal clear for the players how to behave on the pitch.
Mm. Yeah. Should we move on to the Uzbekistan game, guys?
Yeah, I stopped
Yeah.
sharing my screen.
So so we got into the final. Actually, another thing on the Tajikistan very quickly is that Ghalenoei was very happy to settle for a 2-2 draw. In the last like what 5 minutes, he brought on a defender for an attacking play. I can't remember the substitutions. Erfan, maybe you can remind
I
me.
think he brought on Kanani. I think he
Kanoni
brought on Kanani.
for who?
Uh,
But
I'm
I
not
remember this
sure,
was a
but
topic
yeah,
in
I
the spaces.
remember.
Yeah, this was a big thing. He brought, which is just like it just lacks the sort of ambition. Whatever. Okay, we got through to the final. Fair enough. Whatever. Let's talk about the Uzbekistan game now. We got a red card very early on to Yusefi, the right back. I think what minute 5 around that. Moranlu was up
He
top.
brought on Kanani from Mohebi. Just yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
there we go. Yeah, so Moran was started on top. He got injured, then replaced by Taremi again, maybe minute 20, minute 30. Let's be honest, before we sort of jump in, Uzbekistan deserve to win this game. Like hands down, they deserve to win this game, and they did win this game in extra time. They missed a penalty. I think even if we had 11 men, we would have still lost this game. Um, the fact that we got a red card so early, a lot of people will say it's unlucky. I don't think it was unlucky at all. It was poor decision making in my point of view. But yeah, Erfan, what do you think about the game?
Um, just again and again, this Ghalenoei team lacks so much discipline. It's not the first time. It's happened so many times. I think there was a stat that Iran under Ghalenoei has received more red cards than the last 20 or so years. And that just shows how much discipline this team lacks. Um, and yeah, overall, yeah, I agree with you. I think Uzbekistan did deserve to win this game. They had a lot of chances. They could have finished it off much earlier. They had the penalty as well, which was again um, lack of discipline. But yeah, I mean, it was just a disappointing performance overall. I don't think Iran had any like clear cutout chances throughout the game except maybe one. Yeah, it wasn't a good performance. We failed to create chances. Uzbekistan were able to pressure us easily, get the ball, build a play, and go forward. And they were just a better team.
Just to look at some stats, Uzbekistan had a 3.53 expected goals. Iran had 0.25. We didn't create any chances, as you said. So, and the fact they had a penalty that we caused, it wasn't a penalty that like it was contentious in my opinion. It was well deserved. That's another thing I want to cover very quickly. The our management staff were just not just in this game, just over the last few games, they've just been on the touchline arguing with the tiniest decisions and getting themselves yellow cards and in arguments over honestly nothing. Their conduct over the last few games has been absolutely disgraceful, especially as a team that's meant to be the best team and the holders of the CAFA Cup. It's honestly embarrassing, especially when what you just showed, Benjamin, in terms of all the different holes in the midfield and all the space and all the different. These are things that they should be focusing on instead of focusing on no, this referee's giving us they're giving the other team the advantage. They're against us. The whole tournament's against us. Look at yourself before you start looking at the referees, looking at the pitch conditions, looking at all these different things that just honestly have no impact. Even with the Qatar game in the Asian Cup, they were looking at this. It's been going on for a while under this sort of management regime, so it's something that really annoys me. But yeah, going back to the Uzbekistan game, Benjamin, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I completely agree. The game gets ruined, of course, by a red card. But as you said, for me, discipline is connected to clarity as well, and leadership. It's about if you see those holes on the pitch, if you're uncertain on the pitch, how you defend, how you attack, then different type of situations will happen. Maybe you need to cover some space you shouldn't. You take a long run, you come wrong into the tackles. So for me, the discipline start is a symptom of something else. It's the root of the problem. I think, as you said, for me, Iran is one of the biggest teams in Asia. We should lead by example. We are a team who always, not always, but for the last 20 years, we are in the World Cup. We are among the top 3, top 4, like in Asia all the time. We should lead by example to the other countries, not fall to the tricks, the dirty tricks, other stuff too. As you said, as a coach, focus on what you can do. You can't see the gaps. Okay, tell your players fill the gaps or push up that back line or whatever you can. Complaining on a referee who has made a decision, he won't change the decision. Or the pitch is bad. The pitch will be the same for the other team as well. So I think we need to learn to focus on the things we can have in our control, and that's our performance. It's always like that, to fall down in something like every throw-in or corner or something like that. I understand football is emotions. Football is emotions, and it should be emotions. But there's a level where it gets too much. And I think at the moment we don't focus on the right thing. I would like to see, if we want to press high, how we should press high and not complaining about referee mistakes or something like that, or talk about how do we want to attack. What's the identity for this Iranian team, due to the World Cup, not have a press conferences about this and that. Okay, what can we expect as the fans of Iran's football from the team? Do we want to go to the World Cup and complain about everything? No, we want to at least have a solid performance and know that we maximized our own potential.
Mm. There's two things that really stood out for me in this game. One is we got a red card early. Fair enough. It happens. And you know what? It could have really been treated as an opportunity for Ghalenoei to look at the team and say, you know what? We might get a red card in the World Cup. It might happen. Like there's what, 3 games in the group stages? You're telling me in one of those games it's likely that we might get a red card early on. And against a better team than Uzbekistan. Why don't you treat this as an opportunity to play against another team that's also going to be in the World Cup, Uzbekistan, with a disadvantage in terms of players, and focus on things and because honestly, in football, you won't have an opportunity to play a competitive game. I know CAFA is like some people, it's like semi-competitive, whatever, competitive game with 10 men for that long. It's a good training exercise. So, but they didn't treat it like that. They treated it as something to complain about, something to hide behind as well, because they're saying, oh, the referee gave us a red card, so therefore, they were against us. They don't take accountability. There's no responsibility with the management. It's embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing. They could have treated it as a training exercise in terms of playing with one less man, because it could happen in the World Cup. Very, very. Or someone could get injured. All these things could happen. It's very, very likely. Instead, they didn't. Instead, they hid behind it. That's point number one. And point number two, Uzbekistan's a better team than Tajikistan. Uzbekistan's qualified for the World Cup. They're actually quite a fun team to watch. I quite enjoy watching them. And the fact that we really struggled against them, they're probably the one of the best teams we've played in a while. I know Qatar's probably maybe slightly higher. But yeah, Uzbekistan's maybe the best team we've played for a bit. It really exposed our weaknesses more so than other teams, I would say. So yeah, those two things have made me extra worried, if anything. Yeah. Are there any other thoughts that you guys have before we want to move forward?
Very disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys as well, listening or watching at home. On the Twitter Spaces, you guys were very vocal about this game, and rightfully so. Us as fans, we deserve better. We don't deserve managers that are hiding behind referee decisions, that aren't taking responsibility and accountability for anything. They're coming out on media interviews and basically doubling down on it, which is just like when you say, Benjamin, that football's about emotion, I completely agree. Like when you see a decision that's against you on the pitch, you want to stand up for yourself. But they're doing that as well as going out in the media and doubling down on it after they've had time to reflect. And that just shows a lack of character, in my opinion. It just doesn't show a management that I personally as a fan can get behind.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, it's the emotions can just be in place like for 5 seconds, and then you need to go forward because the game keeps on continuing. As you said, playing with one guy down is a good training opportunity because that's a scenario that happens in football, and obviously you need to be prepared for all the scenarios. You know, even in lower levels. You know, I've not been coaching in a national team. You prepare the team. What happens if you get one player down? You prepare them the day before the game. We talk about it with the team. I always have been done that. So okay, if this happens, so we know the adjustments that happen. Okay, this is the structure now, and okay, probably we need to counter a little bit more. What spaces are most important? Of course, you always have opposition, so you try to adjust it to the oppositions, but you always need to have that in your game plan. What happens if one is one down? Because it can happen, as you said, after 5 minutes. You need to be prepared.
Also, another thing is when you're playing the top teams, let's be honest, Iran, as our players have never been really the top players when it comes to physicality or to stamina. In terms of athleticism, we haven't been one of the top teams. Let's be honest with ourselves. Now, if you take this into account, whenever we play teams in the World Cup, the likes of, I know we've not played them recently, but the likes of say France, say Germany, whatever, we will get one of these teams. It's guaranteed because of the pots. So therefore, these are guys that they're running the Premier League, the Champions League, etc. They're doing maybe double the amount of mileage per game than these guys are in their domestic leagues. So therefore, it's almost like they are playing with an extra man anyway. So the fact that we struggled so much against a team that had one more player than us, and they're of a similar level, if not, we should be a bit higher. That again is very worrying to me because when you're playing 11 versus 11 against a top team, it might even feel like they've got an extra player, but we struggled very heavily against that because what we got in our locker that we can control is positioning. We can control even hunger and things like that. Communication on the pitch. These are things that are just we're missing at the moment, and it just creates a lot of holes. Erfan, any last points before we move on?
It's just one thing. I think if there's one thing that maybe Ghalenoei and his staff can learn from this competition is to teach these players some manners, because half the time it looks like they don't even know what they're doing and they just don't even go for the ball, but rather for the players. So,
given what you just said, Erfan, do you want to go into a bit more sort of, I guess, what do you think about
actually,
it?
So this has always been a Ghalenoei thing, actually, even when he was managing in the PGPL. He has no accountability. I mean, whenever he loses games or something goes wrong, he always tends to blame someone else or some other thing, just it's not only Ghalenoei, it's also his staff members. If anyone watches Iranian TV, you know, Football Bartar, we know that Said Alawi, the assistant coach of Ghalenoei, came on a while ago, and he gave some funny excuses, to say the least. And Mesari, who's the TV host, tried fighting him back, but he would either not say anything or just give some more excuses. So, I mean, if you're not going to take accountability for your team and mistakes, how are you going to succeed? How are you going to earn the respect of the fans? It's something very simple. Something very simple, yet.
Football, digga. No, but to be honest, this blaming culture, you know, to find something to blame on, it's so far away from my standards. You know, you take accountability as a coach for what happens on the pitch. You always need to reflect as a coach, analyze what went wrong to be clearer. But just to find like excuses for everything is for me weak leadership. So I think that will reflect on the players as well. If you can't go in and analyze or take accountability or keep someone accountable for what's happening on the pitch, then you will create a culture where it's about developing. We are not going to be France, we're not going to be Brazil, we're not going to be England, but we need to still be Iran. Control the things we can control. Develop the things we can develop. Neymar is not going to play with us the next World Cup, but the players we have, we need to maximize them. To put in a blaming culture, I think it's not beneficial for us. I think it's gonna drag our performances down. Accountability is gonna be one key factor in each and every game from now on to the World Cup, from the players, from the staff, from the federation. If you want to give these boys a chance to have a good World Cup, everybody needs to be accountable for every single action until the first game kicks off.
And yeah, I mean, just like, for example, against Tajikistan after the game, Ghalenoei came to the press conference blaming the referee, and just instead of talking about the tactics, he was just expressing his disappointment in the referee. And yeah, it's not a Ghalenoei thing. It's a PGPL thing. I'm an avid PGPL follower. All managers, or most managers in the PGPL, are like this at least. Whether it's him, Yahya Gol Mohammed, or Jawad Nikolam, doesn't matter. It's just every press conference after every game, the first thing they talk about is the referees. Even if they win the game, they'll just talk about the referees, and then they wonder why the referees aren't good.
But this stubbornness and this lack of accountability, it really hinders us in the long run, because it leads to situations where Ghalenoei doubles down on decisions that people maybe disagree with, because he wants to, instead of doing what's best for the team, he does what's best for him. And in this case, he stays loyal to a formation that potentially doesn't work in that moment. He stays loyal to players that aren't performing. He stays loyal to the lack of young players in the team. He stays loyal to things that, like, for instance, this team really in this CAFA tournament was screaming out for fresh ideas. You've got an opportunity of playing games sort of back to back, similar to like a World Cup format, where you can interchange players, you can try fresh ideas, you can do all of these things that really it's a unique opportunity. Other countries don't have this opportunity, which is a cool position to be in. Say what you want about the CAFA tournament, lack of quality, but in terms of the format, it's pretty much identical. We didn't make use of it. We didn't alternate. We didn't play as many young players as we should have done. That's a question I want to ask you guys, actually, is now the CAFA tournament is over, what are the sort of key learnings that you guys will like? What are your key thoughts, I guess, with the zooming out, not talking about Uzbekistan, Tajikistan specifically, but just on the tournament as a whole and the state of football that we're in right now? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Do you mean about CAF or about Iran?
About Iran currently after the CAFA tournament?
It's that we haven't learned from the past 1 or 2 years. We haven't learned almost anything in the past 2 years. Yeah.
For me, it's the lack of progression, as you said. Perfect format for the players and the coaches. It's as I said, semi-competitive tournament, but for me is the lack of progression. I don't see the progression in how we want to identify ourselves as a team, and we have such advantage against many teams in the World Cup. Not in the World Cup, but let's say, for example, Sweden. They still qualify. They're still fighting for getting to the World Cup. We know our place is there. We have the secured spot. So I want to see the progression in how we prepare ourselves in playing the World Cup in like 10 months. That's the main thing for me, and this was a perfect opportunity to see that progression, because we don't have the pressure that many other countries still are in. Sweden, it's chaotic here now because they lost against Kosovo. So they're still like, oh, are we going to the World Cup? And what happens? We are in the World Cup. We have that luxury at the moment. But I think we waste that small advantage we have being in the World Cup in not get the progression as a team and an organization.
Yeah. But in that case, like qualifying for the World Cup shouldn't be an achievement for us. For Sweden, for European countries where it's more competitive than Asia and South America, same thing. It shouldn't be seen as big of an achievement. It's somewhat, especially with the new World Cup format where there's more teams. It's somewhat guaranteed. So the what you should be, you know, in terms of what they should be judged upon, it's more the games in preparation for the World Cup and the World Cup itself. This stubbornness is really going to hurt us at the World Cup massively because he won't change the system. He won't put in players that are potentially in form. He won't call up players that are performing well at their club level or even dual nationals. He won't do any of this stuff. It's really, really frustrating to watch. So that brings me on to the future. So CAFA tournament's finished. We didn't win. Whatever. No one really cares about the trophy. We have a friendly against Russia on the 10th of October. I've seen a lot of speculation on Twitter about a manager change. We've obviously complained about the manager and the management team on this episode a lot. People seem like they're screaming out for a manager change. Even like the last sort of year or so, it's been ongoing. They were linked to Ange Postecoglou after he got sacked by Tottenham. He's at Nottingham Forest now. Luciano Spalletti is the one that's maybe the most likely, but honestly, I just don't see this happening at this point. I don't see a manager change happening. I hate to say that. I hope I get proved wrong. He would be an amazing coach, in my opinion. Ex-Italy, ex-Napoli, ex-Inter Milan. Italian teams are notoriously good at defense and notoriously good at structure, communication, etc. Something that we're screaming out for at the moment. I just don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you there. If it was going to happen, I think it would have happened before the summer break, around the time of the June windows, where there was still around a year left to the World Cup. But I think with the position we're in now, and with how the federation has been acting up, I think it's very unlikely that we'll go for a managerial change this late. But then again, we have seen it before. We have seen it at the last World Cup. So I wouldn't rule it out entirely just yet.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen either. And for me, it's like I'm two-sided in this thing, you know. Like it's about how we treat our football as well. You know, change the coach 10 months before the World Cup and stuff like that. I think our like in a bigger picture of football deserves better care than that, you know. It's about this how we organize things, you know. For me, it's of course a high profile coach coming in, taking over the World Cup. He gets his time to shine, and then what? He's gonna leave, and then we're back in the same circle of life. For me, it's about how we organize our football from the bottom to the top. It's about how we take care of our young talents, how we train them, and we have seen many African countries done stuff like that as well, changing the coach just before the World Cup, and I think we should be better than that, you know, to have a better state of our football. But obviously, we are in the position we are in, and if a name as Spalletti would come, okay, it's it's a big name, it's a good coach, of course. And he would probably structure up things quite fast, but I don't think it's gonna happen, and that just says everything about which state we are in at the moment, that we're talking about changes after we have qualified for a World Cup. So I don't know. I'm like two-sided in this because I think our football deserves better than the circus, you know, that we are in.
Yeah, agreed. And then the other argument is even if the manager does change, has the new manager, he could be the best manager in the world, has he got enough time to turn this around? It's every day it's getting closer to the World Cup. If there was a change, as Erfan said, it would have been 6 months ago, a year ago. Hasn't happened. Even though it seems like we're a broken record. We've been saying this for a long time, and nothing's changing. If anything, is going the opposite direction. So yeah, I mean, if anyone comment down below, I guess, if you're on YouTube, in terms of, do you think a manager change will be positive? yes or no, and if yes, then why? I'm actually quite interested to hear what people say, because I've heard arguments on every single side. Yeah, it's a strange one. I just don't see I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Um, guys, any other sort of thoughts on the future? I guess like we're yeah, as we said before, we're what 10 months away from the World Cup now. Um, overall thoughts before we talk about I guess transfer news.
We have only one confirmed friendly against Russia, I'm pretty sure, right? In
Yeah,
October. Russia's not a bad friendly, actually, especially playing them away. It's not a bad friendly, but what about the others? I have no idea. We're rumored to be playing some African teams. I wouldn't mind that either. But I think we need to finalize them as soon as possible, because these teams are gonna book friendlies quickly to get ready for the World Cup, and we might
yeah.
be left with some weaker teams to play before the World Cup.
Yeah, we were linked with Chile as well, playing them in a friendly, which again wouldn't be a bad one. I think, yeah, Russia plus a South American team plus like African team would be a decent mix. That's the other thing, is that if you spend a lot of money on the manager, if you change it, is there enough money to be left over to organize these friendlies? It's a finite pot, as we've seen before. So that's the other thing, is do we want to prioritize good quality friendlies, or do we want to prioritize a good manager? I hate to say it, but I think they might deprioritize both. We'll see what happens. Um, okay, let's talk about very quickly. Taremi's moved to Olympiacos. Javanbakhsh is without a club right now. Talking about Taremi specifically, there's been a bit of chatter in terms of, yeah, he moved from Inter Milan to Olympiacos. He was linked with a few other teams, PSV being one of them. He's moved to Olympiacos. It seems like the Champions League swayed his decision somewhat. I'm always in. I always disagree with this, to be honest. When a player goes to a team specifically for Champions League, or at least they lean him, especially for a team like Olympiacos, that, but let's be honest, they will get knocked out like first or second round. Like they're a decent club, but they're not, they're not Real Madrid. So, but having said that, I still think this is a good move. What he really needs is playing time going into World Cup. He wasn't getting playing time at Inter Milan. He scored 2 goals on his debut, got an assist because he won a penalty. I actually think this is a very strong move because he gets him playing time, even if he's dropped down a level or so. So that's what we need. I think it's beneficial for him. What do you guys think?
When all of Twitter was crashing out that Taremi moved to Olympiacos, I was actually happy, because I knew when Taremi is ready and when he gets playing time, when he gets goals like we saw on his debut, that means that he's going to do well. And yeah, I think this is a good move. And contrary to a lot of people, I think that this is going to help him actually. It's going to help boost his confidence. And I think that if he moves to, let's say, a mid-table team from a top five league, I still don't think he would have gotten the same amount of play time. 100% he wouldn't have scored the same amount of goals, and I think that would have affected his confidence a lot in a World Cup year.
Yeah, I think he was also linked with Fulham and Leeds as well, which, I live in England. I would have loved that move, but I don't think he would have got the playing time. So I actually prefer this move. Yeah. Any thoughts there, Benjamin? Or should we move on to something
No,
else?
I think as I said, for him and for the Team Melli, he's going to play in a club that probably will win the league. He's going to score a lot of goals. The self-confidence will be high. I would prefer PSV, but that's because I'm having a little bit connections with them. But I think that the move is a good move. He's going to play the Champions League games. They will not win the Champions League, but he will probably be in a top team, and the Greek 1, 2, 3 best teams or good teams. He gets some decent quality games as well, but it's not the best league, but it's still better than sitting on a bench in the Premier League.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. The other one is Azadi Jahanbakhsh, who, Team Melli captain. He did this last year, and it seems like he's doing it this year. And this year, it's a bit more detrimental given it's a World Cup year. He's without a club. He hasn't got a club at the moment. He's not even like that old. That's the thing. He's like a pretty okay age, but he's like without a club at the moment. He was flirting with Vienna. He was a few different clubs around him. I think Rangers in Scotland as well was another one. I saw some reports of
Oh,
FC20
wow.
recently, and the UAE, Qatar, like the usual suspects there. Um, yeah, it's kind of annoying and painful. He obviously will get into the national team regardless. Again, that comes down to Ghalenoei's stubbornness. I think he's still a decent player, but he needs playing time, and he seems like he's left it too late. And I don't want the same situation of what happened last year this year.
I wanted to mention something when we were talking about the CAFA Cup. This is a good time to mention it. We saw Jahanbakhsh, he came on for I think the last two games he came on off the bench, and even though he hasn't played much football in a long time, you could still see the quality a player like him has. I mean, he was still much better and level clear of the PGPL players. So it just shows the difference that going to Europe and playing in the top five, top six league can make. So yeah, I hope he can find a club soon. He's enjoying these long summer vacations, but it's a World Cup year, man. Get your stuff together.
The thing is, when you see his interviews and when you see him talking, he seems like a very driven player. But then he has these sort of stints where he's like without a club, and it's like, and then there was that notoriously famous clip of him being late to training. Like everyone, they asked like everyone, who's the latest to training? Everyone's like Alireza. So I don't know. It's a strange one. He needs to find a club ASAP. Bottom line, because it will affect his fitness and. As you said, he's one of the players that he performs better in the national team than he does at club level. So we need him at his absolute best in the World Cup, and he's one of the leaders as well. He needs to lead by example.
Yeah, I think the same. It's about getting him into a team to get his fitness levels up and get the playing time. I think he will end up in the Dutch league again. He's a really good reputation there. Whenever I've been to the Netherlands, when I say I'm a half Iranian, everybody knows Jahanbakhsh. It's he has a really good reputation there. They think of him as a good player. I would be surprised if he won't end up there. I think he's gonna find a team in the Netherlands. It's a league he knows. Is a league where he has a high status. Now it's the time when players get injured and stuff like that. So I think it's gonna be opening for him quite soon.
Jahanbakhsh, yeah. Okay, closing remarks. Before I go into you, Erfan, to do a PGPL overview. The other bit of news, I guess, the Azadi Stadium. It's been reported that they're basically closed for any games until March 2027, and even after March 2027, it looks like I don't know if you guys remember, but the game where the lights like shut off, and then Osman scored in like minute 45 plus 27, breaking a record. So. Yeah, it seems like the stadium's sort of past its use by date, which is unfortunate. It's a very iconic stadium, but yeah, it seems like it's just got loads of problems, and we won't go into the corruption and everything behind it. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
I saw a post on Farsi. The stadium has lighting issues, electrical issues, water issues, seating issues,
Yeah,
and pitch issues as well. So it's going to be a while before we see it.
yeah. It seems like it's better to demolish it and start from scratch, honestly, at this point. And then the other point Erfan was that we wanted to cover was the women's futsal, right?
Yes. So the first edition of the FIFA Women's Futsal World Cup is taking place uh, this year, and Iran qualified by finishing third at the Asian Cup. This is the first time Iran has ever qualified for a women's FIFA tournament, so it's good to see. And Iran was grouped in the group of death actually, with the Brazil, Italy, and Panama. The top two teams advanced to the next round, so all the best for Team Melli and yeah, hope they do well.
Very nice. And then yeah, back to you, I guess, to talk about the PGPL.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we covered the PGPL. So yeah, this season there's been 3 games played so far. The table hasn't really taken shape yet. Hasn't really shaped yet. I mean, when Khaybar is top of the table and Chowdermillo is second, so the top 4 teams have only won 3 of their 12 games. So it's been a bit of the weak start for them. But what I really want to talk about is the transfer window, because some teams brought in some great players. I mean, Persepolis brought in Serge Aurier. I mean, that's a former PSG and Spurs player right there. You know, he was I think he was in the Spurs squad that made the Champions League final back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. There has been rumors that he has hepatitis and he can't play for a few months. But still, it's big for a player like him to come into Iran. And also Marko Bakic, Montenegro national team player. And then Tractor and Stepan also signed some foreign players. Enzo Crivelli, Ivan Sanchez joined Sepahan, and some more Croatian players for Tractor. But the team that made headlines this transfer window was Esteghlal, who signed, first of all, the likes of Arif Agassi, Amir Ghalenoei, Said Sarkhizan as Iranian players. And then Jasir Asani, who's a player in the Albanian national team. You might have seen him at the Euros, played very well. Dukans Nazon, Haiti national team player, scored a hat-trick the other day against Costa Rica. Musa Chenepo, former Southampton player, who played for the Mali national team. Antonia Adan, former Real Madrid goalkeeper. Asher Matov, who's an Uzbek national team defender. And Munir Al-Haddadi, who was part of the Barcelona squad that won the Champions League back in 2015. And he was said to be the next big thing, an La Masia graduate. Just huge signings for Esteghlal. So, and I think under Sapinto, when all of these players train together, and I think when a few weeks pass by, I think that this can be a very scary team, not only domestically, but in the ACL too as well. Which getting into, I'll just go through the groups real quick. So in ACL Elite, Tractor are playing 8 games. They got really lucky with the draw. They avoided all 3 of the Saudi teams. So they should be advancing to the next stage at least. And in the ACL 2, Esteghlal drawn with Al Wasl of UAE, Al Muharraq of Bahrain, Al Wahdat of Jordan. And then Sepahan are drawn with Al Hoseiny of Jordan, Mohan Bagan of India, and Ahal of Turkmenistan. So both teams should be advancing there. And then finally, the AFC Women's Champions League, Bam Khatoon, who made the quarterfinals last year, got direct entry this time because of the performance. So they didn't need to go through qualifiers. They'll play Wuhan of China, East Bengal of India, and Nasaf in the group stages. And yes, that's it.
Erfan, I have to ask you one question. I've seen this on Twitter a lot. How concrete are the rumors of James Rodriguez to Esteghlal?
It's true. They have negotiated for sure, because one of the Esteghlal, one of the agents that brings players to Esteghlal, he put it on the story that they have negotiated. But if he does come, it would be for January, because that's when his contract ends in Mexico. So yeah, would be huge in a World Cup year.
I think that would be one of the biggest signings the league has ever had. Like that's massive. Like that's huge.
The biggest for sure.
The biggest for sure. So yeah, I think we'll wrap up the episode there, guys. I appreciate everyone listening and watching. This has been a long episode. If you've made it this far, definitely comment down below. And thank you so much for watching, for listening. Thank you, Erfan, Benjamin, for joining me. And I guess we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much, guys.
Hi everybody, I am Mansour Ebrahimzadeh. I'm watching the goal Bezan.